Everything is different. Every day you open your eyes, begin to look. There are those that are beginning to see what we are talking about and beginning to become fascinated by things that we have spoken of. You see, it is so much easier for us to explain these things to you, because to us it is new experiences. To people in the dead zone, who are familiar with grass and trees and rocks and everything, that is of no interest to them. That's what you call old hat. But to us it is a new adventure. You don't have to go out into some place exotic to have an adventure. Adventure could be looking at things differently every day of your life. Search for something new. Look for something new. Chuck all the notes and stuff from yesterday, you don't need it. Now if it's a reference book on how to run a piece of machinery, then you might want to keep it. You may have to know where the bolts and nuts go. That's a little different, because that is mass and you can't do anything about that. But the rest of the world is all different. Find the difference. You find the difference, you begin to experience the difference, and that is when you'll begin to see the magic. Question: I understand mind has to exist before matter can exist. Datre: no. In the case of physicality, that is not a viable concept. Matter can exist without the mind, because matter contains consciousness, as we have said before. That's the only word that we can find that works, that you can understand. We've said before, everything contains that which you call consciousness. In other words, the rocks, the plants, the trees, anything that is comprised of particles, contains that which you call consciousness. So the mind is, shall we say, that is a different construct entirely. So many people interchange the terms mind and brain. So mind, what we call the mind, that is within the bubble, that is content. The brain processes content. The brain processes content from mass consciousness and from the mind within the bubble. It does two things. So, the brain is a processor. Maybe that will help straighten this out a little bit. Question: do thoughters work directly with or from universal mind? Datre: thoughters are unique. Thoughters are, like we said way at the beginning, we can only describe it as the dandelion seed. In that it goes wherever it wishes to go. It replenishes itself. It is an isness. There are no boundaries on a thoughter. We can say, thoughters are birthed as thoughters. Now that is different. Do not get that mixed up with born, which is a physical construct. They are birthed as thoughters. They exist as thoughters. So there is a definite difference. But the only words that you can understand are birthed and born, so we have to use those. That is when it becomes difficult to explain things. That is why many things cannot be explained, because your words are so limiting. Question: certain thoughts suddenly appear out of nowhere, without any act of perceiving or linking with previous thought. Are those the ones that come from thoughters? Datre: that is a difficult question. It can be yes, and it can be no. It can be a connection. You see, your computer runs all the time. You don't have an off switch on your computer called your brain. Now that brain may be putting something together with something else that you're totally unaware of. It also can be a thoughter. But that thoughter usually comes as a brand new idea from which you can continuously draw and get more and more and more and more out of that original idea. A think from the brain will be something that you'll recognize. But it has no connection with anything. You cannot draw from a think. But you can draw inspiration and ideas from a thought that is coming from a thoughter. So that is the only way we can tell you the difference, and you would have to be the one that could decipher for yourself individually. Question: are thoughts, as units of awareness, independent of me? Datre: definitely. If you were to go way back into the beginning of when we came onto the net, we described thoughters as dandelion seeds. That is definitely independent of you. Question: do I pull thoughters in from the bubble, or does my brain think them up? Datre: no. You don't pull them in from the bubble, and your brain doesn't think them up. What happens is, when you begin to think about something that is a puzzlement to you, or something you wish to expand on, in making something or writing or painting or any of that, you begin to open up the physical brain and things just flow through the physical brain. You will begin to have connections in the physical brain to things that you have seen or heard or interacted with. They will come together and it will, oh, if I do this, then this will happen, but then if I do that, what comes next? There is nothing within that which you call the brain thinking pattern. You, to use your terms, hit a blank. Now the next moment, a thought can connect with those thinks that you have produced, because in the production of the thinks it would be like a wave pattern. All right, a pattern exists. A thought that is similar to that pattern will connect onto this pattern. At that point the brain can pick up what is contained within the thought if it so desires. Then, at that point, you can begin to open up, unravel, whatever words you want to use, that thought. Then that thought can trigger other things. You will, probably for many days, what is contained within that thought, keep unraveling and unfolding, and it will unfold and unravel as deeply or as long as you want it to, depending upon what you're doing. If you're into creating something, like music or painting or anything, you get, shall we say, in the flow of doing something, and you'll just be amazed. All of a sudden, here you are, blending colors to paint with, that you never would have thought of before. You say, I say the word thought. But that is not what you would say. To be proper, you'd say, I would never think to do that. You would not think to do that, because thinking only takes you so far. Thinking is brain experiences connecting. So in thinking you only can go so far. But when you connect with a thought, you can continue and continue and continue, until you are finished with whatever you had, so that you're satisfied. Then the thought, at that point, you have released it, you're through with it. What does it do? It is viable within its own self to break from your think patterns and continue on. As it breaks away from your think patterns, it rejuvenates itself and continues on. Then a person 1,000 miles away can pick up that very same little thought and use it again, because it is a viable thing all by itself. It rejuvenates itself. You have used it. You have used it as much as you wish to use it, and it continues on. The analogy I like to use, that probably is easier for you to understand, is water. I have used this many times. Water can be in a river, it can be in a lake, it can come out of a faucet, it can come from a waterfall, it can come in the form of rain. It is still water. All right, all these different places where water can be, and what happens? You can go to some place where there is water. You can stand and look at it. You can drink it. You can swim in it. You can walk through it. You can wash with it if you have soap. You can do all these things with water. And water doesn't care. You have used it, and when you're through using it, that's all right. You may have changed the way water is after you have used it. When you drink it, it comes out of you and it goes into your sewer system and goes out. But what happens is, because you have so many people on your planet, you have now had to figure out a way to clean up your water. So you add chemicals to clean it so you can use it again. Prior to the time of so many people, water took care of itself. Water went back into the earth. The earth took care of the water and put it wherever, when it was cleansed. It also went up into the atmosphere and came down again, and that was a cleansing action. At that point in your evolution, you did not have to clean your water. That is the way a thoughter is. Nobody has to clean up a thoughter. It is independent in and of itself. It has its own viability. When a thoughter is used, it regenerates itself. Years back, your water took care of itself. So maybe now you can get an idea of how that works. But a thoughter is a viable thing in and of itself. You have no control over it. If the combination of your thinks attracts a thoughter to it like a magnet, you can use those thoughts. But when you release it, that thoughter goes on its own and rejuvenates itself and can be used again and again and again, because it is never ending.